Of course, I'm concerned with what goes on in the world, what's happening in life.
In terms of getting what you want?
I won't get what I want at any cost, to be violent and that, but I do get what I want. I use my mind.
Those 10 haunting seconds from Jimmy Cliff's own voice now hit different, like a prophecy playing in reverse. From a quiet kid his mom once pushed onto a tiny stage to the man who carried reggae beyond Jamaica's shores and into every corner of the world, his story feels like destiny wrapped in rhythm.
Do you get any inspiration at all from that kind of scene, or does most of your inspiration come from life in the hills?
No, it's good. Both of them are good, because the city has certain energy that is not in the country, right? Everyone is in the city is in a hustle, and everyone in the country is more laid back. So it's really two different kind of vibes. So the one that strengthens me most is the one that I get in the country. Then I go to the city and expand in it.
I guess you have to have a little bit of both.
Sure.
But now those words aren't just an old recording, they've turned into a riddle shaking the whole music world. At 81, Jimmy Cliff, the living symbol of reggae and unity, passed away quietly after battling a seizure and pneumonia. His passing felt heavier than any stage spotlight ever could.
I get inspiration. I don't really concentrate on putting it on one certain thing that inspires me. If I see something that's not right within the system or within living between man and man, it touches a chord in me that inspires me to write something about that.
What truly stunned everyone wasn't only how sudden it was, but what he said before it happened. That message, shared through his wife's tears, carried the full weight of his life, from the poor streets of Somerton to the harder they come, to becoming a worldwide emblem of hope, strength, and spiritual light. People are whispering that his last words were mysterious, deep, even prophetic. Could they really change how the world remembers him? Maybe even rewrite the history of reggae itself? Who was the last person to truly hear Jimmy Cliff's voice? And what was in that final line that made everyone freeze and rethink everything? His story began far from the flashing lights, in a quiet Jamaican village where sea breeze, red soil, and struggle blended like a sad, beautiful tune that only life could write.
Dozens and dozens of musicians who started out this. Do you have more talent? Have you had better luck? What?
I believe everybody, I believe everybody has talent, but it's a matter of willpower and determination. That does it, and a bit of luck.
Back in 1944, a baby named James Chambers came into the world in Somerton Parish. St. James, one of 9 kids packed into a small home filled with noise, laughter, and struggle. His father, Libert, a tailor and farmer known for his wisdom, always said every child was born with their own path. His mother, Christine, worked endlessly from sunrise to moonlight, dreaming her children might one day escape the poverty that wrapped around their village like chains. But no one could have guessed that this quiet boy would one day rise to become a legend known across the globe.
Are you a very determined man?
Very.
Are you a dangerous man?
Oh, not dangerous. In what sense?
In terms of getting what you want?
I won't get what I want at any cost, to be violent and that, but I do get what I want. I use my mind.
Somerton was so poor back then that when someone got a radio, the whole neighborhood treated it like gold. Music became the only escape, a window to a bigger world. Little James was instantly hooked by the raw beats coming from old sound systems, the crackle of speakers, the deep pulse of drums, the energy of ska and rock steady flowing straight into his soul. He never had lessons, no fancy stage, just evenings sitting on the porch soaking in those broken melodies that drifted through the air, sometimes fading, sometimes roaring back with power. Right there, without even knowing it, he was shaping the voice that would one day carry reggae across oceans. Even as a kid, James couldn't sit still. He followed local bands, humming and dancing like he belonged up there with them. By 8 years old, he was entering tiny singing contests, grabbing the mic with fearless confidence. Villagers whispered, "That boy's not scared of anything," and they were right. His fire burned bright from the start, but deep down, James knew the truth. If he stayed in Somerton, that flame might fade. He had to find his way out before his dream disappeared. And his father, Wilbert, had always seen that spark in his son's eyes. Something wild, something unstoppable. He was the first to truly know that James wasn't meant for an ordinary life. So one bold day, he made a choice that would change everything. He took James to Kingston, the heartbeat of Jamaica's music scene. That single move, which seemed small at the time, ended up shaping the entire future of reggae. Kingston in the late 1950s was alive with noise, color, and dreams. Every corner was bursting with rhythm. A city full of young hustlers chasing their shot at greatness. James dove right in, hypnotized by the city's pulse. He'd hang around small recording studios, pressing his ear to the door, soaking up every note, every breath, every trick the great singers used. Whenever he could, he begged for a chance to audition. And even when he got turned away or left unrecorded, he never stopped showing up. His hunger was too strong. This was where Jimmy Cliff was born, not just in name, but in spirit. The name James Chambers didn't have the fire he needed to stand out, so he chose something powerful, something symbolic. Jimmy Cliff. Cliff, like a steep rock face, meant courage, risk, and the will to keep climbing even when the drop below looked deadly. It wasn't just a stage name, it was a mindset, a promise to never stop pushing higher, no matter how rough the path. From that moment on, James Chambers was gone. In his place stood Jimmy Cliff, a man with the drive to take Jamaican music beyond every border, to break through class, culture, and fear itself. In those early Kingston days, Jimmy Cliff lived right in the middle of chaos. Jamaica was on the edge of independence and the streets were boiling with tension. Gangs, politics, and poverty tearing neighborhoods apart. All that noise, all that pain soaked deep into his heart and later poured out through songs like Many Rivers to Cross and The Harder They Come. You could feel the fight in every word he sang. It's no wonder his music carried the heartbeat of struggle. He came from a world where young people had to battle just to be noticed, but through all the madness, he found something priceless: identity. Ska, rocksteady, and reggae fused together inside him, shaping a sound that was raw, hopeful, and filled with truth. His melodies carried both joy and sorrow, light and darkness, blending into a sound that nobody else could copy. Kingston toughened him up, turned him into a fighter, but Somerton, that little village where he first listened to the crackle of old sound systems, that's where the seed was planted. No one, not even Jimmy Cliff himself, could have guessed that the boy who once stood outside studio doors listening in secret would one day carry reggae to the whole planet. His rise began early, before he was even 15. While other kids were still running the streets, Jimmy was already inside small, dusty studios where the microphones crackled and the tapes hissed. But the dream burned bright. With pure determination and raw instinct, he recorded his first tracks, and Jamaica would later realize that fire inside him could never be put out. Then came 1962, Jamaica's first year of independence, a country searching for its new voice. And right then, just 14 years old, Jimmy Cliff dropped Hurricane Hattie, a storm of a song that hit exactly like its name. Hurricane Hattie hit Jamaica like a storm for real. The moment it dropped, Jimmy Cliff went from a local dreamer to a national sensation. People no longer saw him as James Chambers, the poor kid from Somerton. He was Jimmy Cliff, the next big voice of ska and reggae, ready to take over the island. That hit caught the attention of one powerful man: Chris Blackwell, the mastermind behind Island Records. Blackwell didn't just see a talented singer, he saw the future of reggae itself. He believed Jimmy's voice could carry Jamaica to the world stage. So, with courage and hope in his pocket, Cliff boarded a plane to London, a city exploding with sound, style, and rebellion. London in the 1960s was wild. Rock, soul, and psychedelic music ruled the air, but Jimmy held his ground. In 1967, he dropped Hard Road to Travel, an album that showed how far he'd come, featuring songs like Waterfall and Wonderful World, Beautiful People. Every track felt like Jamaica speaking straight to the world, raw, proud, and full of soul. But that was just the warm-up. In 1972, destiny knocked harder than ever. Hollywood called, and Jimmy answered with the performance that changed everything: The Harder They Come. In it, he played Ivan Martin, a poor, fearless young man fighting against an unfair world. But here's the twist: Ivan wasn't just a movie role. Ivan was Jimmy Cliff, and through him, Jamaica's struggle and spirit came alive. The movie became a revolution. Not just a film, but the bridge that carried reggae across the ocean and into global culture. Its soundtrack, filled with timeless tracks like Many Rivers to Cross and You Can Get It If You Really Want, flipped the world's view of Jamaican music forever. Jimmy Cliff wasn't just a national star anymore, he was an international icon, his songs echoing the dreams and struggles of a generation craving freedom. As the years rolled on, Jimmy Cliff kept breaking barriers. He wasn't just a singer, and he was a songwriter, actor, and activist, always chasing new sounds and new causes. His versatility sometimes sparked debate, but it was the very thing that kept him alive in a changing music world. In the 1980s, he dropped Cliffhanger, the album that scored him his first Grammy, proof that his fire hadn't faded one bit. Then came the 1990s, when his smooth cover of I Can See Clearly Now, 1993, brought him roaring back into the American spotlight. Cliff wasn't the type to stay boxed in. He flowed between reggae, rocksteady, pop, and world music with ease. He teamed up with artists from the US, the UK, and Africa, spreading a message that never changed. Music should lift people up. Even into his 70s, he refused to slow down. Records show he was active right up until 2025, still performing with that deep, soulful voice that carried decades of life and truth. Fans called him the Shepherd of Reggae, the man who quietly kept the flame alive for the next generation. He didn't chase fame, he carried purpose. But no legend walks an easy path. Behind the bright lights and timeless songs like Many Rivers to Cross and You Can Get It If You Really Want, Jimmy faced his own silent struggles. After The Harder They Come turned him into a global symbol, the spotlight suddenly shifted, and the new name lighting up the world was Bob Marley. According to The Guardian, Marley became the global face of reggae, and his meteoric rise cast a long shadow, one that even Jimmy couldn't escape. But instead of fading, Cliff kept creating, kept performing, kept representing Jamaica with pride. For a man who helped open reggae's doors before Marley ever did, being overlooked wasn't easy, yet he handled it with quiet strength, proving that true legends don't fade, they evolve. There was never any scandal or messy drama with Jimmy Cliff, just the cold truth of the music business. The spotlight can't shine on everyone at once, but instead of fading away, Jimmy took a bold turn. He pushed past limits, blending reggae with new sounds and styles that most artists wouldn't dare to try. That creative freedom kept him alive in the game, but it also came with a price. Some hardcore reggae fans didn't like it one bit. They said he'd gone too soft, too global, that he wasn't the same roots Jimmy Cliff anymore, but he never let the noise shake him. In one interview, he made it clear, "I don't sing for a genre, I sing for people." That one line said it all. After leaving Island Records, the label that first launched his career, things got tougher. Without big backing or flashy promotion, some of his best songs slipped through the cracks. Hidden gems lost to time. Still, Jimmy refused to quit. His path wasn't just about fame, it was about growth, musically, spiritually, and personally. His faith journey fascinated fans too. Growing up, he connected deeply with Rastafarian culture, but later, during a rough period, he converted to Islam. Eventually, he moved beyond religion altogether, saying he'd embraced a freer, wider way of living, a mindset about unity, peace, and truth. These changes made some people curious, even confused, but for Jimmy, it was about finding peace, something applause could never give him. And through it all, he stayed clean. No wild scandals, no violence, no chaos, just a man evolving in front of the world. Sometimes fans wondered, where's Jimmy Cliff headed next? Does he still want to sing? But every time he stepped back on stage, his answer hit loud and clear. The fire was still there. He never truly disappeared. Jimmy Cliff's spirit never left the stage. But time? That's the one battle no legend can win. As he moved through his 60s, 70s, and into his 80s, his health started to slow him down. Tours became rare, studio sessions spread out, and the spotlight shifted to newer sounds, hip-hop, EDM, and dancehall. Music from a new generation chasing their own rhythm. Still, Jimmy refused to fade quietly. He kept performing, recording, and collaborating, just at his own pace. No rush, no pressure, just pure art. He carried himself like a man who had already conquered every mountain he needed to climb. What made his journey so powerful was its honesty. No scandals, no chaos, no fake drama. His only darkness came from hard work behind the curtain, from being overshadowed, from growing older, yet through it all, he stayed real, creative, and devoted to the music that carried Jamaica to the world. Even when the world moved on, Jimmy stayed true. He didn't chase trends, he built legacy. That quiet strength, that calm persistence is what made people respect him deeply. Because when someone faces loss, fame, aging, and change, yet still holds their voice, faith, and peace, that's not just resilience, that's greatness. Jimmy Cliff beat every challenge life threw his way. Poverty, competition, fading fame, even cultural barriers. The only thing he couldn't beat was time itself. And then came the moment no one saw coming. In 2025, while still performing here and there, Jimmy's health suddenly failed. Just weeks before his passing, he shared a short video for his fans. His eyes bright, his smile warm, his voice full of life. It felt like the same Jimmy everyone had loved for decades. But quietly, beneath that warmth, the first shadows of farewell had already begun to appear, soft, silent, and heartbreaking. According to Reuters and AP News, the world lost a true legend on November 24th, 2025, when Jimmy Cliff passed away at 81. His family confirmed the cause, a severe seizure followed by pneumonia that led to respiratory failure. The decline happened fast, but it was really the result of years of hard work, endless touring, and the toll of time on a body that had carried music for more than half a century. In the last few few years of his life, Jimmy had been fighting quiet battles, breathing troubles, exhaustion after long shows, and constant headaches that sometimes kept him out of the studio. But he kept it private. He didn't want pity or attention. He wanted to stay known as what he'd always been, a reggae warrior, not a fragile artist fading away. So when he was rushed to the hospital that November morning, his family thought it was just fatigue again. None of them expected how quickly things would change. Within hours, his condition took a turn no one was ready for. Doctors reported a sudden seizure that disrupted his heart rhythm and left him struggling for oxygen. At his age, the situation became critical in seconds. Then pneumonia, that quiet, deadly illness, struck right after. His lungs, already weak, couldn't recover, even with hospital machines and strong treatment. The medical team did everything they could, but Jimmy's body was simply too tired to fight anymore. Reuters later called his condition beyond recovery. Yet what shook the world wasn't just how he passed, it was how he faced it. In those final moments, surrounded by love, he was still calm. Still Jimmy Cliff, the man who turned struggle into song. Holding his wife Latifah Chambers' hand, he spoke softly to her, leaving behind words only she knows. Words she described as a gentle farewell, full of peace and love. With heavy heartbreak, she later shared, "I announce with deep sorrow that my husband, Jimmy Cliff, has passed away." Jimmy Cliff's passing came after a seizure followed by pneumonia. But what truly moved the world wasn't the medical report, it was the message that came right after. His wife, Latifah Chambers, stepped forward to share his final words of gratitude. She said Jimmy had thanked his fans deeply, saying their love had been his strength through every stage of his career. He cherished every single person who ever believed in him. Then came the line that broke hearts everywhere, her voice trembling as she said, "Beloved Jimmy, may you rest in peace. I will follow your wishes." Those few words sent a wave of mystery through fans around the world. What were those wishes? She didn't reveal them, and maybe that silence said more than words ever could. Were they about protecting his family, safeguarding his music, continuing his humanitarian work? No one knows. And that's exactly what makes his final message so powerful. But when you look closely, the truth feels clear. Jimmy's entire life already told us what those wishes meant. In his later years, he said he no longer followed any single religion. He believed in science, compassion, and humanity itself. Through his songs, he always preached the same message: persevere, stay kind, and never give up. From "You Can Get It If You Really Want" to his 2022 album Refugees, he kept singing about justice, equality, and unity, about seeing every new day as a hidden blessing. If Jimmy Cliff's life were a letter to the world, then Refugees was his final signature, a closing message filled with hope and human connection. So when we talk about Jimmy Cliff's last words, the truth isn't found in one quote. It's in the mix of everything: his wife's promise, his gratitude to his fans, and the timeless message he left behind. Keep faith, keep trying, and keep believing in love and humanity. That was Jimmy Cliff's real final message. Not one single line, but an entire life woven into a few words from his wife, a few timeless lyrics, and a legacy that makes us all stop and think about how we live, love, and keep pushing forward. When the news broke, the world mourned like never before. The moment Reuters, AP, and Die Welt confirmed his passing, a wave of grief swept across nations. In Jamaica, leaders called him a golden son and a spiritual treasure, a man who turned a small island into a global voice. Around the world, tributes poured in. Die Welt named him one of the architects of modern Jamaican culture, while The Guardian wrote that Jimmy Cliff opened the path for reggae before any other name could. From New York to Berlin, Rio to Tokyo, artists, fans, and legends of later generations paid their respects. Many admitted that their own music journeys began with his songs. His words about hardship, freedom, and faith had shaped their spirit. Online, thousands of fans created playlists playing his hits non-stop for 24 hours. At reggae festivals, crowds fell silent for moments of reflection before blasting his anthems through the night. Social media lit up with his gentle smile, that peaceful, grounded energy that reminded people what true resilience looks like in the entertainment world. But the most powerful tribute came from Jamaica itself, the heart of it all. That night in Kingston, sound systems echoed through the streets, blasting "Many Rivers to Cross," "You Can Get It If You Really Want," and "The Harder They Come." Elders sat on porches nodding quietly while younger crowds sang every lyric like a prayer. People who had watched him rise from the start shared stories through tears and laughter. No one told them to gather. They just did. From schools to bars to street corners, Jamaica came together as one, celebrating not just the man, but the message he left behind: hope, unity, and rhythm that will never die. It was as if Jamaica itself was wrapping its arms around the soul of the man who gave it pride, rhythm, and a global voice. Soon after his passing, the government and cultural leaders began planning major tributes. a statue in Kingston, a national memorial, reissued albums, and even a Jimmy Cliff Foundation to help young artists who lacked access to studios or music schools, just like he once did in Somerton. International reggae groups also joined in, suggesting a permanent museum exhibit to honor his life, filled with original The Harder They Come posters, early ska and rocksteady recordings, and rare tapes from his tours in the 1970s. Yet what truly stayed with people wasn't the ceremonies or the headlines, it was the spirit behind it all. Fans around the world didn't just mourn a singer, they mourned a storyteller, someone who turned the struggles of the poor, the hopes of the lost, and the courage of the broken into pure music. Through Jimmy Cliff, the world was reminded that reggae was never just rhythm, it was the voice of freedom, a heartbeat of unity that spoke to wandering souls everywhere. And even though his final wishes stayed private, that mystery made millions reflect about life, faith, and what really matters. His passing became a message on its own. True legacy isn't what we leave on stage, it's what we leave in people's hearts. Jimmy Cliff's impact runs far deeper than hits or film fame. It's in the change he sparked. He showed the world that reggae could speak every human language: love, struggle, hope, and peace. When people remember him, they don't just see a star, they see a man who helped the world understand Jamaica's pride, resilience, and hunger for freedom. His greatest legacy, redefining what music means, a force to heal, unite, and inspire. Cliff never chased scandals or empty fame. His purpose shaped generations of reggae artists who learned from him that music carries responsibility to community, to truth, and to humanity itself. Countless artists have said that it was Jimmy Cliff's unstoppable presence on the world stage that made them believe they could make it too. Even those born on small islands saw hope through him. Proof that where you start doesn't define how far you can go. From reggae and ska to hip-hop and even Latin pop, musicians across genres have admitted that the door to the global stage was already open because Jimmy Cliff had pushed it wide years before. What made his impact so special was his authenticity. He never watered down his Jamaican roots to fit in. Instead, he made the world fall in love with them. That quiet strength, staying true while going global, showed generations that identity doesn't have to be sacrificed for success. His influence goes beyond music charts. In classrooms across the world, students study his songs while learning about Caribbean culture, protest art, and history. In Jamaica, youth programs use his lyrics to teach that poverty isn't a dead end, it's a starting point. Even projects that don't carry his name still carry his message, that art can lift people out of struggle and remind them of their worth. Jimmy Cliff's spirit also reshaped how the world hears reggae. Before him, protest music from Latin America or South Africa stayed mostly local. But after Cliff took reggae global, people everywhere realized it could speak about struggle, justice, and hope in a way that touched every heart. From Brazil's Maranhão reggae scene to Japan's island bands to movements across Africa, reggae became more than music. It became a social mirror and a language for freedom seekers worldwide. Those waves all trace back to one man, the legend who turned reggae into the song of the wandering soul. Above everything, Jimmy Cliff's strongest legacy is the image he left behind. An artist who stayed real, stayed rooted, and lived completely by his values. Jimmy Cliff never chased trends or tried to act younger than he was. He didn't need to. While others from his generation fought to stay relevant, he stayed authentic, becoming the purest version of himself. Through political chaos, cultural shifts, and an unpredictable music industry, he always walked that fine line between artistry and integrity, never losing his soul along the way. That unshakable image, humble, grounded, and centered on people, became his greatest legacy. When the world said farewell to Jimmy Cliff, they weren't just saying goodbye to a voice. They were saying goodbye to a symbol, of strength, of vision, and of connection. He wasn't only a musician, he was a pathfinder, the bridge that carried Jamaica's rhythm and heart to every corner of the world. But the beauty of Jimmy Cliff's story is that it doesn't end there. His legacy lives on, in the hearts of fans who still play his songs, in the young artists who step on stage with courage and honesty, and in the communities that use music to heal and unite. That's the timeless gift he left behind, one that won't fade no matter how many years pass. If you felt the power of Jimmy Cliff's journey, share this story, drop a like, and subscribe for more deep dives into the legends who shaped our world. See you on the next one.